start with our panel if folks can introduce themselves and the organizations that they're a part of. What brought you to tenant organizing and the social justice movement? We'll start with Kenya.
Hey y'all. My name is Kenya. I work for South Carolina Housing District. We're a tenant power organization, and I think how their justice works because I needed it for myself. I know what it's like to have a room that's not responsible. And I've been a large social justice role because I feel like nobody cares about people except for the people experiencing the same things. And so I've seen how people have showed up for me and changed the reality, and I want to continue to show up for my community so we can change something.
And Andre?
Hello, how y'all doing? My name is Andre. I'm from Chelsea, South Carolina. Yes, I'm a part of it because I've been staying in the area for like 10, 11 years now. Very proud to be here, and I'm gonna do whatever I can do just to make sure things go right.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. All right, y'all wait. I like that. My name is I'm so glad to see all of you here. And I really came to the housing justice movement in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. You know, folks are being thrown out of their homes, did not know their rights, just being harassed by their landlords. Eviction rates were just climbing, and things were getting really, really scary here in Miami. It really was like the wild, wild west during the pandemic. You know, a friend of mine invited me to start participating with Miami Worker Center. And really, since then, it's been my home, and I'm grateful and honored to be able to fight alongside you guys, to transform myself as a human being and as an organizer, and to be able to do it with all of you. So thank you so much.
Hola, mi nombre es Jocelyn Murga. Yo vine a ese movimiento en el 2022 porque yo viví la peor injusticia que cualquiera de ustedes sé que la ha vivido y ha sido el desalojo. Estuve en la calle con mis hijos, viví bajo un puente, viví en un shelter y desde ese momento supe que tenía que luchar por tanta injusticia y sigo aquí porque yo sé que las cosas se están poniendo peores y estoy aquí para luchar por los que pueden hablar y por los que no pueden hablar y por incitar a las personas a unirse a este movimiento. Tenemos que crear un poder y fuerte.
I'm happy, and I think we can have a grounded conversation because we have not only organizers, tenants who also have experienced the hardships that we're experiencing in the South. And so one of the things that the opposition likes to make us believe as people is that we're experiencing this by ourselves. That it's because we're not working hard enough, it's because we don't have a lot of money, it's because that we are doing something wrong, and we sometimes feel embarrassed that we're experiencing eviction. Some people hide. They don't want to tell people what they're going through, but we know that all over this country, tenants are experiencing abuse, and we want to talk about it and make it real. Because if we don't talk about it, people will act as if our suffering isn't happening, right? Right? So we want to be in their faces saying, this is what you're doing to us, and we're not going to take it, right? And so we know what's happening in Florida, but want to hear about what are the conditions, what are tenants experiencing in South Carolina? What are y'all seeing that is kind of like, not only unique to the South, and we say unique to the South because we know we have some of the worst tenant landlord laws in the country. And so just want to share a little bit so we can be grounded in what folks are seeing in South Carolina, and then we'll ask Benny and Jocelyn to kind of share what they're experiencing as they've been on the doors here in Miami.
So what I've experienced, like I said, 11 years, mold, like from flood damages, rats, like, I got 2 children, 2 daughters, so like I said, I always pay my rent on time, and outside is dirty, trash everywhere, children can't even clean inside.
Yeah, so it's important for y'all to know our government is a family. We said it differently. Our government is a slumlord. So if you look at his name and slumlord, over 2020 are so we may like minus 2020 to see an eviction rate council, and we can't even get to a committee for that because he's very serious about not seeing housing rights. So like anything is the first step to seeing a law change, or we may need to get there. So in South Carolina, Dre was talking about a housing authority apartment. That is a norm in every city in South Carolina. Those are stories that come out like Dre's experiences. The other thing I think is important to note is that the cost of living in South Carolina, you guys were talking about y'all elevated minimum wage is not cutting it. Our minimum wage is less than $8. But we're not close to $15 an hour. People are now commuting 30 to 90 minutes just to get to work, doubling up in their household because that's the norm. A one-bedroom apartment in Charleston on the cheapest side is about $1,200, but most folks can't afford that. So there's a lot of eviction rates. We have one of the highest eviction rates per capita. That means you don't have the education to understand what our rights are. So a lot of people leave thinking that they're avoiding eviction and actually go to apply for a new place and realize they actually have an eviction. So we have a lot of things in common. We have a lot of challenges, and we have a lot of folks that don't want to see us win.
El gobierno nos está dividiendo con mentiras. El gobierno está matando a nuestra comunidad latina, a todos los afroamericanos. El simple hecho de que bajos recursos ya no tienes la posibilidad de vivir en un hogar digno por el simple hecho de ser de bajos recursos. Y en cuanto somos las personas que estamos trabajando día a día, nos están destruyendo poco a poco. Porque vengo cansada de mi trabajo y en qué momento tú vas a tener tiempo de decir voy a ir a la organización. Pero te están mintiendo. Te están poniendo una cortina de humo para que no te des cuenta de que tienes todo el poder y la capacidad de luchar y de hacer un cambio. Y eso es lo que yo veo en las calles. Y lo hago y se lo digo a las personas, abramos los ojos. Jocelyn really said a lot. I don't really have much to add. I just want folks to understand that just last year there were over 18,000 evictions in Miami-Dade County. 18,000 evictions. That does not include illegal evictions, where landlords change your locks, where they come in when you're not home and they throw your things out in the street, where they come in and harass you and intimidate you and tell you to get out of the property. So many evictions that are not accounted for. All right. Know that our communities, low income, low wage workers, class, immigrant, folks from all nationalities, we are the ones who are suffering the most. We know that. We don't need anything to tell them that. Because we know our elderly, our disabled, $500 a month. How are they supposed to pay their rent with money like that? Right? We see that happening in our communities. But like Jocelyn said, we know that we are making, there's thousands of us here. And we can do something about it if we stick together.
Thank you, Vanny. I will recap a little bit of what they said, because I think that there's so many parallels between what's happening in South Carolina, but also what's happening in Florida. It was the people of Florida when our legislature and our governor did not want to raise the wages. It was the people who took it to a ballot initiative that made us not be at $8 anymore, right? And so I want to make sure that folks continue to realize that we're not here for fun. We're not here because this is a social group. We are a political organization fighting for rights because we believe if we come together, we can win. And we saw that with wages. And so every year when we see the minimum wage go up, the governor did not do that for us. The legislators did not do that for us. The people of Florida did that, right? So we're gonna wake it up and let folks know if we want things to change, we gotta do that. But in South Carolina, they have a governor who's a landlord, who's fighting against any kind of campaign to ensure that tenants have rights. And I want y'all to know that in Florida, many of our legislators are corporate landlords as well. Their campaigns are funded by the developers, and they're going to stand in the way of us getting what we need. And so we need hundreds of thousands of people, right, to ensure that the conditions that Andre talked about. She said Dre, but Andre tells us that we call Dre. Dre. That the conditions that Dre told us about the most that we know. We just had massive rain, and we know that people have mold in their house, right? The rats, the rodents, the ceilings collapsing. That is not okay, right? No one should live like this in the wealthiest nation in the world, right? To remind people that we live among some of the wealthiest people in the world. And so the condition that Dre said is unacceptable, and we should all be furious about it, right? Housing is a human right, and we won't double down on right. And so we're trying to pivot to the campaigns that people have been connected to. Because we don't only organize and we build leadership, but we also ensure that organizations have campaigns. Because campaigns are the vehicle to move laws, to change conditions for our people. Also want to say there are different kinds of organizations. But our organization has committed right now, right? In a state like Florida in the South, where our country is going in a different direction, we're committed to being a campaigning organization that takes the issues that people are experiencing very seriously and want to fight and change them, right? There are other organizations that might do something different, but we are a campaigning organization, right? And it's going to take hundreds of thousands of us. And so I want to talk to you all about campaigns. You talk about the right to counsel. We also have a right to counsel campaign. Lots of thoughts, lots of feelings, lots of strategizing. So talk about the campaigns that y'all have tried or that y'all that are active right now. And then we can share on our end of Miami what we've seen, the successes, but also what's painful for us as well.
We're doing a cookout to gather everybody together and give everybody information and a chance to want to learn and know what's going on and don't be afraid to speak up for yourself and everybody else, no matter what kind of things they take. You know what I'm saying? Stand up for yourself and just let them know you're not by yourself. And we all going to do this together.
Thank you, Andre.
Yeah. It's going to kick out, but I want y'all to understand it's a strategy for them. The community that Dre lives in is a community that's been ignored for years. Always in the news. People pay attention for 2 seconds and then they turn it off. And so instead of starting big, they're going to start with reminding each other that they are somebody. So we're going to have some really good things. And then the week after, they're launching their tenant meeting. So they're going to fight their housing authorities for utility assistance because they live in the hottest part of the peninsula. The hottest part of Charleston is where I'm in. It's 10 to 15 degrees hot. They're also going to get the right to negotiate their rent because the rent don't make sense for what the conditions are. They're working on relationship purposes so that when you get to fight, you fight better with folks who you know this stuff, right? We're also South Carolina fighting this, like a make sure every council you go to, make sure each should have a representative there to fight for you. We also started a new campaign to launch around eviction, around stealing. So in South Carolina, there's not a way after you have an eviction for it because you come formally off your rent. You can pay it out, and it's still there. It's also in a fight with national-based landlords. So the federal government also helps pay some of those bills. And right now, we're working to get rental tax for properties that have federal debt mortgages. That means that the federal government gave somebody money to buy property, and we think that the federal government should do their job and make sure those places are great places for folks to live. And so the newest announcement around that is we've been waiting for folks to make a decision and tell us something, and they have started to implement new regulations for landlords starting next year. So it's a slow fight, but we have seen like a win there around requirements, around evictions, around notices. That will be life changing for folks. 60 days is a really long time compared to 30 minutes. So,
Right before I go to Benny and Yoselin in terms of the campaign, there are a few things that I want to make clear for folks. And so when she talked about a ceiling for like a ceiling of the record, we know that if you experience an eviction in the state of Florida, it's always on your record and it follows you for a lifetime. So that was also a bill that went forward in our Florida legislature, and they did not see it committee, right? Did not move, right? And so we want to pull out the things in terms of southern right wing governments and legislatures that are not allowing what the people have said they wanted to move forward. And then we're going to talk also about what I wrote down was want to make sure that we talk about knowing people, right? I think what Audrey said in terms of cookout is important, right? We know that if we don't know each other, if we don't build solidarity with one another, if we don't understand that what's happening in Little Havana, what's happening in every city, what's happening in North Miami, Little Haiti, we're all experiencing it, right? If we don't come together, then we won't be able to win this fight, right? And so I want to really appreciate you talking about showing up and socializing over food as well.
Bueno, creo que como parte de esa campaña que estamos lanzando con la organización que es Derecho a la Representación Legal, no ha sido fácil. La estrategia ha sido parte de las ideas que ustedes como inquilinos nos han dado, porque reclutando hemos visto la necesidad que tiene la comunidad y a base de eso es que hemos creado poder escribir la ley, porque yo estoy en el comité de política y no ha sido fácil porque hemos visto necesidad en las calles y hemos escrito a base de eso. No hemos agarrado, ok, voy a ir a la computadora, buscar Google, ¿cómo puedo escribir una ley? No, la hemos creado pensando en las necesidades y lo que hemos visto reclutando. Estamos haciendo llamadas, enviando mensajes, hemos salido bajo la lluvia a las calles. Hemos estado en los shopping repartiendo información y yo sé que no va a ser fácil, pero tampoco es difícil. Y hemos visto resultados en las calles porque las personas al principio no quieren. Y dicen, oh no, si no trabajo, no puedo pagar mi renta. No, yo voy a perder el tiempo. Pero cuando tú le dices, no quisieras vivir en un hogar donde no que pasar por vivir con cucarachas. No quisiera llegar a las 4 de la tarde y esperar a tus hijos con una cena rica porque el trabajo es justo y es digno porque te alcanza para pagar el alquiler. Y ahí es donde ves el cambio en el rostro de las personas. Y es el mayor trabajo que hacemos, creo yo, como organización y como para organizar, es mover las emociones de ustedes, mías, de ellos, porque esa es la mayor parte para poder ganar el poder, tocar el corazón de ustedes. Y esa es la mayor estrategia que estamos teniendo, de que queremos lanzar esta campaña con las lágrimas, el corazón y el sufrimiento de lo que la comunidad está pasando. Y creo que lo vamos a lograr. Yo siempre digo, si no es así, lo vamos a seguir intentando porque no nos vamos a dar por vencidos. Porque mientras nosotros estamos durmiendo, ellos ya no sienten bien y nueva. Hay que seguir trabajando. The reality is that the majority of the laws that usually pass every day in this country are not laws that actually consider the opinions, the thoughts, and the needs of regular everyday people. We at the Man Who Mobile Center, we make an effort and we are committed to making sure that our campaigns, that the laws that we fight for actually come from the base, actually come from people. So for those of you that are walking around and saw the Senate Bill of Rights that we won,
The Section 8 expansion from 60 days to 120 days for the vouchers. All of that came from us studying the community, what the community want and need. All right, and we, like Josephine said, we learn together. None of us here have all the answers, but we get together and we learn together. What can we do to be able to win the change that we need? And I know a lot of people might be thinking, after hearing those things, they were saying, wow, living in Florida, it's tough. Maybe, but why are we here? Why are we in the South? But like Bego said earlier, the laws that you see here that are tearing us down are experiments that they run to pass the rest of the country. The laws that get passed first here, you see them popping up in the north, in the east, in the west. Sadly, a lot of us I know came to this country, sacrificed themselves to come here. African Americans built this country. The reality is that we cannot afford to lose this fight. We cannot afford it. We sacrifice too much. We pay our taxes. Even adopted people pay millions in taxes every single year. So we are inviting you all to join us in our campaign. Like Josephine said, like others said, it is not easy. It is a commitment. But we know that every day we have to fight for everything that we get, including all the protections that we have. Thank you.